Hello, I'm Jacqueline Pollauf, and today I'm going to explain how to change a wire harp string. Harp strings come in three different materials, nylon, gut, and wire, and changing the nylon and gut strings is a pretty similar process, but there are some differences if you're working with the wire strings. Wire strings are made out of steel. They have a steel core and then another piece coiled or wound around the outside. They don't break very often, but if they do, you remove the old string and then you go ahead and thread your new string up through the harp. And new wire strings come essentially pre-knotted, so you don't have to tie a knot, which is great. Then when you're winding the string around the tuning pin at the top, you leave some slack, which is the big difference in working with wire compared to other types of strings. The ends of wire strings can also be quite sharp enough to, say, cut your finger or scratch up the wood of the harp when you're taking a string on or off. So when you're working with wire, you just want to kind of bear that in mind. You'll just need a few things to replace your wire string. First, of course, you'll need the replacement string itself. If you're confused about the different types of strings or the numbering system for them, I have a whole separate video about that because it's a pretty big topic. But here I'm just going to assume that you know which string you need and you have it handy. You'll also need your tuning key, of course, to wind the string up. And then you'll need some pretty heavy-duty wire cutters, something that can handle the steel of the string. If you're concerned about safety, you also might get a pair of safety goggles to wear while working with the strings. First, we're going to remove the broken piece of string. So we have this long section here, and then we have a smaller bit still wound up around the tuning pin. And to remove this, you can just feed it down through the harp and pull it out around the back side. Some people also like to take their wire cutters at this point and shorten the length that you're going to feed out. So they just, snip it off and then throw this big piece away and then just have a small piece that they need to feed out through the bottom of their harp. So here we are around the back of the harp. I'm just going to reach in through this access hole and begin to pull out the string. I'm using my other hand over here to guide it through from the front. And there we have the large piece of broken string. Next, we'll remove this small broken piece from the top of the harp. And really all you need to do is sort of unwind it from around the tuning pin. And once it's fairly straight, you can wiggle it free. If it's really stuck, sometimes a pair of needle nose pliers comes in handy for that step. Before we put the new string on, you want to make sure that your pedals are in flat, the topmost and longest position, or if you're changing the string on a lever harp, which some larger lever harps do have wire strings just like these, you would make sure that your lever is disengaged, that it's down, so that nothing is in the way of the string. You can also take your tuning key, put it on the empty tuning pin, and then turn it so that the hole in the center is vertically aligned, so that way when we put the string on, we can just thread it straight up through the tuning pin. We're replacing a 6th octave wire E. So I have the new string here. I'm going to go ahead and take it out of its package, and it comes all coiled up like this. You can see on this side there are a couple of felt washers and a little metal anchor. That's going to serve as our knot. That's the pre-knotted portion of the string. When you're uncoiling them, you want to be a little bit careful so that it doesn't spring away from you. So just kind of gently going under over with one or both of the ends until it all springs free, but then keeping a nice grip on the string. Next, I'll take the free end of the string, the end without the knot, and I'll thread it up through the access holes around the back of the harp. Once a bit of it comes through, you can just grab it and pull it from the front. Here we'll go ahead and thread the top of the string through the tuning pin. And then just like with any other string that you put on, you want to make sure it matches the strings around it. So here it's on the left of the bridge pin and going nicely up through the center of the discs. Before you begin winding the string up with your tuning key, you have to leave some slack. And this is the big difference in working with wire compared to working with other strings. So if you were to just start winding the string around right now with it pulled fairly tightly through, then it would just snap off. There's no give to a wire string. And in leaving slack, the big question is how to leave just the right amount, not too much slack and not too little slack. So what we do, or I guess I should say there are different approaches, but what most harpists do is they hold the string up here with their right hand, and then with their left hand, they start to gently pull down to give it slack. And then as a way to measure, they stretch the string out until it reaches the string an octave above. So that's called giving a string an octave slack, and that's a very common way to measure and end up with the correct amount of slack. Now I'll go ahead and start winding the string up with my tuning key, turning the tuning key away from myself, the same way you would to make a string sharper. And with my left hand, I'm going to hold the loose end of the string here, like you would for any other string. And at the same time, you kind of want to guide the string as it winds around the pin. Wire is a little bit tricky to work with because it's kind of stubborn. So it can be challenging to get it to do a nice tidy wind around the tuning pin. And you can see that as I'm winding, the slack is disappearing. It's just taken up with the string. Also keeping an eye to make sure that everything lines up properly here, because it can easily move around with so much slack. As with any other string, as you wind with your tuning key, you want to make sure that the winds are nice and tidy, they're not jumbled up or laying on top of each other, and also that they're gradually moving in towards the neck. And once you have it wound around a couple of times, then you can go ahead and check the tuning. So I'm going to use the string below our new string. You can hear it's quite a bit lower, so we'll bring it up. All new strings need to be brought up. And then once it's kind of close to that string, usually with these low ones, I use the string an octave above to check as a reference point. And there we have our new string all put on the harp. At this point, all you need to do to finish up is to trim off this excess piece of wire string. So I have my heavy-duty wire cutters, and I'm just going to get pretty close to the tuning pin, and holding this piece with one hand, I'll go ahead and give a clip like that. And then we're all set. This string is completely installed. There we go. We've gone ahead and replaced a wire string on this harp. And really the two big differences are, one is really nice that you don't have to tie the knot when you're putting the string in. And then the other is, of course, leaving the slack before you wind it up. So if you need to replace a wire string on your harp, good luck.